Zero-hour contracts are when you sign up to work for a company, but that employer has no obligation to actually offer you any paid hours. They're common in catering, building, retail and tourism. Even Buckingham Palace uses them, and many workers like the flexibility, especially students and pensioners who work for that little bit extra. But many can't make ends meet when they have no idea how much money they're going to earn each week. And now refusing a zero-hour contract could lose you state benefits. Are zero-hour contracts ethical?
McDonald's treats us workers like numbers on a spreadsheet. You know, we're immaterial to them. They don't think of us as people out there living our lives.
I don't know really the best way to describe the way they see us, but let's say worker bots more than anything else.
Sometimes it becomes a choice between just doing nothing but work and then just trying to rest and sleep on your days off, that you can't visit your friends, that you can't make plans with your family. It's not a decent way to live, you know. Human beings are social animals, you know. We're supposed to be able to connect with one another, and sometimes it feels like this is what this job means, is that it's just cutting off that connection to the real world.
We're on low pay, we're on zero-hour contracts, but also because we haven't got union recognition, we experience things like sexual harassment, bullying, victimisation on the basis of mental health, physical health, and the list goes on. I've been a rep for 2 years, and these are problems that have arisen time and time again.
Because we dare to challenge them.
They're trying to stop us from being in a union, trying to stop us from talking to people about the union. It wasn't until after we announced that we were balloting for strike action that we got suspended. And we do think the timing of it is very suspicious.
It's just not right, it's unjust, and people are recognising that now, and are having, as a result of what's happened today, I think it will inspire others to stand up and say we're not accepting it anymore.
Hundreds of employees on zero-hours contracts are subjected to a regime described as horrendous and exhausting. They're monitored at all times, even toilet visits are regulated. This isn't a sweatshop factory abroad, it's the Midlands-based warehouse of the global online retail giant Amazon, which millions of us use every day.
Workers describe a disturbing pattern of losing their jobs at the end of 12 weeks without any notice.
I'd started in March and then they laid me off. And then I went back, and then they laid me off again, and then I went back again.
Martin now works full-time for the local community centre. He, like others, believes that Amazon has a pattern of deliberately sacking temporary workers at the start of their 13th week to avoid the legal obligation of having to give them the same rights and benefits as full-time staff.
Rather than employ the majority of its staff full-time, Amazon instead makes extensive use of so-called zero-hours contracts. For staff, it means no guaranteed set hours or job security and shifts that can be cancelled at the drop of a hat. But for Amazon, they provide the ultimate flexibility, allowing it to switch labour costs on and off like a tap.
In some cases, former staff at Rugeley told us they weren't told about the benefits they'd accrued while they'd been working. In the UK, for example, temporary staff are eligible for holiday pay, even if they're laid off. But that wasn't Emma's experience.
Somebody said, you actually have got annual leave, write an official letter and you'll get it. And I did, posted the letter, and lo and behold, 2 weeks later I got a pay packet for annual leave I was owed, but originally I was told I hadn't any.
So you could have left without getting that money that you were due?
Yep.
But then you did get the money?
Yeah, I did in the end, but there was people there that didn't.
And then there's the sheer exhaustion. The Amazon warehouse at Rugeley is the size of 9 football pitches, yet staff have just 30 minutes for their lunch break. In that time, they have to walk the entire length of the building to get to the security point, where they queue to be searched for stolen goods before even reaching the canteen.
So I then had to think, well, okay, it's just took me 15 minutes to get here. It's going to take me another 10 minutes to get back, so I've got 5 minutes for lunch.
And did you complain about that?
Yeah, there wasn't really fuss. It was walk a bit faster or try and get to the front of the queue.
Is this flexibility or is it exploitation?
What it means is this. Firstly, the large majority of people on zero-hour contracts are on below the living wage. That's particularly acute in London. It's 3 out of 4. The Office for National Statistics show that those on temporary contracts have far lower levels of well-being than those on permanent contracts.
I think that's simply not the case.
Well, it is the case, and let me finish. The other point, there's a few other points, but quickly, is that you can be on call.
We'll come to those, yeah.
On call all day, for example, from 9 a.m. in the morning till last thing at night, when you've only got 20 hours, set hours, for example, that week. You have an exclusivity clause. You can't work for other employers during that same period. It's very hard to claim in work benefits, and it's got to be seen as part of a general trend of stripping security from the workplace. We've seen the growth of so-called self-employment. It's often self-unemployment. It happened to my dad. He became self-employed. But many of those people are on very low wages, not getting many hours. You don't have pension rights. You don't have leave rights for leave. You don't get redundancy pay.
So it's trampling on workers' rights.
So let's have flexibility, but not at the expense of security of working people, and that's the problem we've got.
It's a relationship of power. For me, if we look at this as an ethical question, an employment relationship is just that. It's a relationship based on reciprocity. I give you my labour, in return you give me work and I'm paid for what I do. Zero hours contracts, if used or abused in particular ways, break down that reciprocity, that relationship, and leave people vulnerable, open to abuse, and in situations where they don't know where their income is coming from week on week.
When I look at the major zero hours employers, and I am thinking the major employers in the care sector, the major employers in the retail sector, and the major employers in the hospitality sector, I do not see businesses that are focused on creating jobs and not focused on profit. I see businesses that are so focused on profit that they're actually cannibalistically reducing the circumstances of their workforce, which reduces their customer base, and they can't see it.
Just because some employers use zero-hours contracts unfairly does not mean that everyone should be banned from using them, as some politicians and unions are calling for. Perhaps we should be looking at tightening up the circumstances in which they can be used, so that those businesses and workers who need and like the flexibility can have it, and those employers who are just using them to exploit their staff cannot do so. There is a bigger picture here, and it comes down to the individual needs of your business, and one of those needs has to be the morale and welfare of your staff. Therefore, employers should be looking at what arrangements they have with their workers and deciding what suits them and their staff best. Building the right team with the flexibility that both your business and your workers need is the way to go.